Well, I want to thank Mark. Unless you have one more specific question, we're gonna move on.
Press on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Drake, you have a question from someone in the chat room. It says, we live in an area with a huge Air Force base. Does this mean that we will have less unrest?
No, not necessarily. I think what basically is going to transpire is most of this stuff's going to be spread through its own momentum. When things dry up, when things change, when things adjust, you can have some unrest by people who don't like the idea of being responsible for themselves, whomever that may be. In that process, there's going to be visits from law enforcement at a level that people were not expecting. This has already been happening here and there on occasion. The unrest may or may not turn into something more than people wandering around in the street going, now what are we supposed to do? I don't know. Let's figure something out, and we go from there. There's a lot of different ways things can be played. A lot of people have a pent-up anger because they feel like they've been screwed over in some form or another. I suggest that they take all their anger, their angst, anxieties, and fears and direct them towards giving them the willpower to accomplish something.
Turn it into some creativity.
Anything will do. It can be creativity. It can be getting mad, grabbing a broom, and sweeping 4 miles of gutters. It don't matter. Whatever. Expend that energy. Then when you got tired of it, when you're done with that, then turn your mind on and go, now what can we do about the problem that we've got? I'm telling you, gardens, that extra can of beans, you'd be amazed how far that stuff goes.
Okay.
Right.
I must mention this. There are certain very positive things. For one thing, we're not going to have the utilities turned off like usually happens in other countries. For another thing, what we're hearing now is a solid, positive, constructive, and that I can go with. So we're hearing a lot of good stuff, a lot of things, bad things, which are not going to happen.
All right, Jim, you wanted a few minutes to talk on your point, and I want to let you have that opportunity and let Drake and Terry address your comments. But before we do that, Drake, you have a comment from the chat room. What about all the gangs and drugs?
Yeah.
Well, if people don't have money, they ain't going to be able to buy drugs, for one. Number two, gang members get hungry just like we do. And if the money ain't no good, they're going to have to figure something out.
And there's another aspect to that, Drake. It's our government that supplies the drugs in the first place.
Yep. And the IRS
and
is
if
going to
you
go
don't
bye-bye.
believe that, you really need to do some research. It is our
I already
government.
know that.
So when they're no longer in business, neither are their dealers.
And the IRS goes bye-bye.
Now,
So
what
boosts
that
the economy.
does is, if the money ain't no good, nobody's going to be able to buy either. So even if they've got some on hand, it's going to be worth nothing more than getting stoned or whatever it does to you. And I guarantee you, a hamburger, even from the worst greasy joint in the world, is much better than trying to eat a brick of marijuana. I don't care who you might be. It takes a lot of salt and a lot of water to wash that down. So,
a lot of brownies.
Is this, okay? You're going to have some conflicts. It's going to be a combination of certain people. Those people are going to be taken out by the police force. Now, police forces, local as well as state, they're already aware of this, they're going to be concentrating in areas that they expect problems from. Now, that does not necessarily mean a black neighborhood. It could be simply a protective line between a poorer neighborhood and a more wealthy one, or it could be protecting certain stores, or it could be protecting part of a light company equipment. There's a lot of things this could be. But you're going to have that primary idea. They are willing to allow the idiots to become rioters. Now, here's the problem. At the point that they go from wandering around in the street picking their nose to becoming a rioter, in between that part right there don't matter much because they're not dangerous and they're not damaging much of nothing. At the point that they start damaging things, you're going to see a police presence like there has not been seen in some time. I'm trying to forewarn people that it ain't a good idea to go outside and shoot your gun in the air or break windows and try to snatch stuff out of stores. These people are going to come in and they're going to be serious about this. They're not going to play with you. They are going to either return fire and or break heads. Just that simple. I know that sounds extreme, but they want to make sure that no one gets the idea that they can do anything they want simply because there's been a change of government.
Right. It's not a state of anarchy.
Exactly. Now, the other part of this, the secondary part of this, is I hope and pray that enough people in the, quote, neighborhoods that are going to be most affected by these sorts of things understand that if they stay inside, stand there with a butcher knife at your front door, somebody comes through, chop it off, unless you know who it is. It's very simple. But stay inside. It'll make things a lot easier. And believe me, it's only going to be just a few days before things are back to, quote, normal, as they can be. Now, that depends on whether or not you allow the street gangs to burn down all of the stores, like the Watts riots. That was stupid. They burned their own stores down.
Yep.
Well,
I watched them do it.
It don't make sense. So do something sensible with it. What would be sensible? Let's go have a powwow. Come on, get everybody together. We need to figure out what to do. Well, then you may have something to work with. At least you're communicating. That's more than a lot of people do. When you have decided that you might be in trouble and you might not have much to offer in terms of being able to do something, maybe you ought to go ask one of the cops on the corner, hey, man, can I ask you a question? There's about 5,000 of us around and about in different places, and we'd like to know exactly what we need to do. We'd sure like to be able to go get a Big Mac or something. I mean, is this going to be okay? Can you work something out, let somebody know something? I'll be over there at that garage. Bingo.
Yep.
I mean, this is how this could work most peacefully. I don't know whether it will or not, and it depends on the attitude of the people involved. Some people are going to grab machine guns, flamethrowers, rocket-propelled grenades and tanks, anything they got, and go after everybody that gets in the way. There are nuts out there like that. I'm going to suggest that these people do and probably should have been locked up a long time ago, but now they really need to be caught and stopped before they damage people that don't deserve it. And that includes a gang member don't deserve to be run over by a tank or shot by some idiot. So, like I say, peaceful as possible is the key word. Try to understand what can be done in terms of the situation you're in and apply the best methods to obtaining the objective. If that's eating, that's water, that's a place to stay, however that works out.
Right.
I'm doing.
Drake,
yeah.
Jim wanted to say something, and I want to give you and Terry a chance to address it. We're down to about 40 minutes left.
Terry, you're up.
Okay.
Jim's up.
Okay, I'm going to skip some things I was going to say because it's a waste. And a lot of the old listeners know I'm an old hand at this. And I do come from a rough and tumble world of West Virginia. I've known whistleblowers who are no longer with us. But for those few new listeners who don't know, all of our so-called governments and all these alphabet agencies are, in fact, privately owned corporations listed on Dun & Bradstreet. Now, the nation of states is going to change a lot of this. So what I say is you understand we're in a state of flux. Now, the IRS, which is now offshore, was originally incorporated in Dover, Delaware in 1933. They robbed us blind. It cost us more than food, clothing, shelter, utilities, insurance, and transportation combined. And here's how that works. Even if you're a pauper, you're in the 2/3 tax bracket. When I was a kid, about 4 ice ages ago, less than a fourth of every dollar spent ultimately went to pay the taxes that accumulated in the final product price of the goods or services sold. It's around 2/3 now. Someone told me that during the Vietnam War, every dead Vietnamese soldier cost us about $20,000. Okay, now, not to mention what it cost him his life. Now, we paid around $1 million for every dead Iraqi of late, whether man, woman, or child, while Americans are going hungry and homeless, all because of our so-called government. Now, what I've personally experienced for decades has been a very slow motion of real-life Red Dawn movie in my face. Now, no matter when you wake up, once you see what's really happening, you can't help but see it unfold in your face, no matter how slowly it happens. Ever since I was a young man, I've had false hopes that America would see this and do something about it. Every one of them turned out to be false hopes. Okay, now, until the past few months, I believe in what's going on because I've seen too many signs, because I watch economics. Now, from real history, governments at all levels have always taken as much as they could get away with from the people. From real history, people revolt against this when life becomes too difficult for them, only to be replaced by yet another government that took all they could get away with. Now, to a real historian, revolution means, here we go around again. Now, what most concerns me is what we will have on the other side of the revolution that is in progress in America and all around the world right now. We must prepare for what follows right now. Now, our original government was actually an evolution out of endless revolutions, and it worked for quite a while. It was originally designed so the governments would be of, for, and by the people, not pharaohs, Caesars, kings, dictators, potentates. And this could only occur at a local level. Now, the people are to have total control of everything from honest elections to grand juries and trial juries that told judges what they were to do, not the other way around. It was designed around the county courthouse. Everyone was within a day's ride of their courthouse, within reasonable reach of justice. States passed laws, enforced at the county level, and set the tone and the economic conditions for that state. We had no federal or state enforcers of any kind that were used against we the people. We didn't even have a standing army. And we're now overrun by blood-sucking parasites at all levels of government that are utterly destroying what's left of our economy. Now, I've been a businessman. I understand economics crammed down my throat. Now, our original military was only designed for defense, not endless offensive wars. We don't even have a Department of Defense now. We only have a Department of Offense. All this will change with what Drake and Terry have been telling you, and I've been mesmerized and entranced by all of it. Enforcement for the people was centered around the county, and the top cop in the county was elected. If he misbehaved, he could be dealt with one way or another. The federal government set economic policy, provided for common defense, and settled problems between states. Of course, you guys know a lot more of that, but all that was long gone by the time I was a teenager, and I'm 61. Now, real government occurs, I lost my place, at the county and state local level. We must regain this. The first step is to get good people organized and educated regarding specific issues. That's what Freedom Reigns is all about. But you have to get together with your own people. Now, the second for them is to figure out what they most need to do, where they are, whether the sheriff is on their side or not. Now, when enough good people stand up, the sheriff has little choice but to join them. The county plan is designed to do that and just that. Now, will things change dramatically on the national and state level? Yes. They have no choice. They're all bankrupt corporations, despite the fact that they didn't even have to pay corporate income taxes to our lawful governments that they've displaced. The Federal Reserve stockholders have looted these corporations and their agencies. All this is about to change. All these enforcement agencies have been nothing but racketeering corporations bent on taking everything they can take. We're going to turn a lot of this around so that they will go after the real criminals rather than taking as much as they can for the American people. Now, they're on their final feeding frenzy right now, smashing away at what businesses remain, from farmers selling raw milk to repair shops and little girls' lemonade stands. They're running out of victims, folks. And if you think that all this won't affect you, you have another thing coming. They're behind almost every bit of unemployment in this nation, and we cannot blame the Chinese for any of this. We can only blame our so-called governments that are corporations and all their little minions, the agencies, for this destruction. Those of us who are, or were in my case, businessmen, I've had them smash 3 out from under me. For decades, we've known for decades that our government's declared economic war on all businesses long ago, except for their few anointed. And that's almost the very definition of fascism. Just look at all the boarded up storefronts, the farms now covered with brush, all the empty factories. It is time we banded together at the local level to protect what's left of our private economy, all of it, and tell the racketeering corporations called government agencies